right, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Visiting Authors Series. This year our guest author is Tyree Daye. Daye is an award-winning poet and teaching assistant professor at UNC Chapel Hill. He's published 2 collections of poetry, River Hymns in 2017 and Cardinal in 2020, and has been awarded numerous fellowships and awards, from the 2019 Palm Beach Poetry Festival Langston Hughes Fellowship to the 2019 Whiting Writers Award. His poems have been featured in the New Yorker, New York Times, and Academy of American Poets, among other publications. A native to rural North Carolina, Daye's poems linger in the quotidian lives of Black Southerners as they grapple with the struggles of intergenerational trauma, racism, and poverty. His poetry is haunting, lyrical, filled with longing and redemption, with a keen awareness to how roots bind us to the soil, yet lead us to the light. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished guest, who has graciously agreed to read some of his poems for us today.
Hello, good morning. Thank you all for being here. 10 a.m. in poetry, you know. I appreciate that. It means a lot. I'm going to read from my second collection, Cardinal, which came out October 2020. I would say that the book, I was in Massachusetts when I was writing this book at a residency, but I was constantly pulled back home to North Carolina, and I was really thinking about what does it mean to travel, right? Being Black and traveling in this country, and also this idea of home being this place I love, but also this place full of violence and that pull that it was having on me. I think that's enough. I'm just gonna dive in. By land. I've lived on dirt roads that bent and ended at a gate of ponds. The dust skipped up, didn't make my mother look like a dream I've lived on roads that drag through America. I've paced only them to the next town. The road we kissed on is gone, rich folks buying up all the city in which we make do. I miss when Sonny could do a wheelie all the way down Person Street, and no one would call the police because he was part of the neighborhood, like the honeysuckle bush between 2 yards, and he was beautiful, not like a horse standing alone in a yellow field, but like a man is beautiful. Most of the little towns have a road nicknamed Devil's Turn, where someone's brother died on a Saturday night while Nina sang Tell Me More, and then some on the caddy's radio, the moon the color of the oldest cardinal. Every road isn't a way out. Some circle back like wolves. You can't get lost on them and they won't lose you. Others wait for you to run out of gas, then come alive with what your mother said would take you. Every road promises something like a father does, but when you arrive, the town is empty, and you wait like a child questioning everything, the road itself, laughing like a drunk man falling into a roadside ditch. The road I'm walking now is howling and full of moon. Hopefully it will lead to myself. Hopefully they'll take me home. There's this character in the book named Miss Mary Mack. I'm sure you all know who that is. I love that I said it like no one ever heard of it. Miss Mary Mack introduces her wings. My name is Miss Mary Mack, Mack, Mack. You sing it, my name. I turned into a bluebird last summer. I flew through all the South. My wings are blue and I touched the sky. At first, I decided I was never coming back. I took off my black house dress. I knew freedom was not the act of flying, but the steady beat of wings. It was my steady black, blue, and my blues were gone. I wanted to be a bird and became. Skip around a bit. Leave yourself all over for Grandmother Carey. Teach me to love the way only the dead know. Sometimes I want to see you so badly, I dream myself full of the reddest wings. I do the things I promised my mother I'd never do again. You wouldn't recognize me now or the town. 3 highways run through old tobacco land. I weep all night for you, will not stop no matter the bright purple festivals, the fireworks that scare everything from the sky. On my way to visit your grave, where you're buried beside your lonesome son, who walked Youngsville all day like an angel no one would give proper wings. I wanted to see you in that small town where our last name watered a crop of soybeans labored under a white man's promise. I wanted to see you in that wide graveyard as a cardinal. When I arrived, I wanted there to be jubilee, chalk red feathers darting the sky like a little blood moon. I think I'll never be through with the dead, my altar full of whole other worlds. When you no longer ghost among your children, grandchildren, when you become fully angel, a bird I let loose in my house, will you still remember us in our jerry-rigged lives? I know it's hard work being dead. All right, y'all. How y'all doing? Y'all okay? I'm going to read new poems too. As I'm reading these poems now, I'm always interested in thinking about how I get to these different collections. Like I definitely see, it makes sense that I would go from river hymns, focusing very much on Youngsville, North Carolina, Roseville area, to Cardinal and this like speaker dealing with this now traveling, right? Because I was traveling. But now I'm like back in these. I think in the new work I'm back in the town, but it's an imagined space. It's very much Nassau Street, Youngsville, North Carolina, but it's also very much imagined. You all know Nassau Street? Anyone been to Youngsville? You know Nassau Street? I'm sure you can't go to Youngsville without driving through Nassau Street. It's like an old black street, very old street in Youngsville, where she planted hydrangeas. My grandmother migrated from South Carolina to North Carolina with 3 children, a sister named Betty Lee, and a best friend named Lou. They sailed here and prayed God lined the highway with angels whose wings could hide them from every evil thing. On moonless roads, the stars gone missing. They arrived like most black folk looking for more than a field to turn over, to find a dead turkey vulture's feathers scorched under the truthful dirt, its wings bent as if it died, saluting the dead rabbit it stood over. What stood over them was a field the hands will never stop touching. They slept on homemade beds and ate over fires out of a cast iron pot. A whole community gathered together in the woods to pull wild onions, to pick pecans off the cold ground. All her dreams she scattered like chicken feed across the yard. My mother, aunts, and uncles ate those chickens, and they sold those dreams into us, our purple under the windowsill of those lives. This next poem, I guess you should know, in Mississippi in 1947, the first mechanical cotton picker was invented. The black folks who were sharecropping at the time, they made money picking cotton. So with this invention, they had to find other work. And so many of them went to Chicago. The mechanical cotton picker for black Chicago poets. It wasn't that they killed John Boy in front of his mama's small blue house, and that no one called her Miss Bluebird anymore, out of respect, though she never minded the name. It made her believe she'd fly off someday. Or that the sheriff let John Boy's body sit until even the baby stopped crying, their eyes filled with him, his body already going to marble, no one would be able to lift from their sleep. It was that we could feed ourselves then by getting down on our knees to pick cotton, and most knew what a body smelled like blowing down a dirt road. When Chicago reached my ear, the war was full of bodies. They sent whole train cars for us black folk. I read The Defender and waited to hide my face behind the curtains of a northbound train, and I prayed the train car would fly. The South truly don't want us to go. A Mississippi cop would catch a family disappearing behind a rainstorm and send them home, the clouds leaving 4 muddy fields at a time. I left like a season's first lover across a window, slowly like a southern sun, diagonal on a work back. I wanted to carry my aunts to Chicago with me, like this obituary-filled Bible, these plums I got saved, purpling in my bag. If you go back through my first 2 books, there's a lot of purple. That's my color. For the poets in the room, students up there, you should think about like what's your like emotional color, right? That color that maybe shows up in your work naturally, maybe to investigate maybe why, or other places you've seen it in your life. I wanted to place an ocean. I tell my uncle's ghosts, don't waste your time hunting white folks who owe you money. I will try to give him my body, but he won't take it and pulls his wagon on. I began in fields near ponds where we laughed and fried fish. If someone were to sing, it would grow through each ghost and be heard as geese crossing overhead. The dead know the work they have done, and if they are not careful, their hands will stay in the shape of that work. My hands haven't touched cotton or tobacco. I haven't pulled small green worms or carried them inside with me, hidden in the body's doublings. I was only a child in harvested fields. When my people let the cotton sleep, there were no vacations. The fields of Roseville belonged to my kinfolk, dead and alive. And I know my great-grandparents never saw the ocean. And I don't know if my great-grandparents ever saw the ocean or fell asleep on the beach. All right. Any student poets up there? No? Well, you will be after this, hopefully. To all poets from northeastern North Carolina, it's just getting, wait, so why are you here? You're a poet? I'm sorry.
One time I went in through to Roseville Street.
Uh-huh.
There's like a little field over here.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a tractor going through and it had like a sign on the back and it said, slow down.
I'm really happy that Roseville's right when I get to read these poems. Like, I'm really thinking about those places as I'm reading. I'm really glad you brought that up. Coming into Roseville, I guess, you can go to 401 Split, you can go to Roseville, go to Lewisburg, that little store right there. How do I forget the name of that store? It's like my childhood. It's not Bailey. Anyways, that's what I'm thinking about. There's that field across from that store, though. That's usually, if I'm talking about a field, that's the field that I'm talking about. I remember when I was like 5, coming into Youngsville out of Raleigh, I saw a turkey vulture lift from that field, and that's literally been stuck in my mind for years. To all poets from northeastern North Carolina, it's just getting hot. Dogwoods showering our shoulders with flowers. I saw dead baby birds on a trail, so I know new life has arrived, lost in the survival of pine and ash. I'll say it plainly, we need you down here. Yesterday, my uncle put a nail through his thumb, working for the same white man he's worked for since 6th grade. Last night, his blood fell on the floor and made a star he couldn't follow. He needs to hear your poems. When I left, a turkey vulture lifted from a field I still love. It was hunting season. Birds flew off at the sound of rifles. We warred with brown rabbits. The vulture's head was bald and delicate, like the old men in their hats with names on them like Ford, USA, and Dodgers to cover their soft skin. Old men who stood in front of the breakfast truck stop across from the field, the butter partly melted in the middle of the grits. They also saw the vulture, knew how to scavenge gathered like horses or stars in a junkyard looking for a rusted pearl. Those old men have died in their sleeps by now, though no field could care how many would fall in it and why. I want to sit here tonight, still in love and vultureless, listening to Sade. I'm still the boy who walked through a dying sweet potato field. Though our small town wouldn't recognize me now, I have a different body, a dented body, fieldless and far gone. Look through the book, there's like pictures of my family members in here. Much of these, I was like looking through the photos the other day. Like this is definitely Roseville, North Carolina. I was not born in this photo. And I love that I can spell, like this is Wendell at my uncle's house, Wendell, North Carolina. Back in the day, it was a part of Wendell, North Carolina. If you know Wendell, it was called Colored Town. It's literally where the black people live. It was literally called that when I was little too, which is wow. Trying to remember other little areas. This is South Carolina. I know you all can't see it. I'm having fun myself. All right, and I'll show you one more. This is Youngsville. This is on Nassau Street. This house is still there, though it's been remodeled. It has central air now. That was not a thing when I was there. But in this photo, you can see there's like a homemade barrel pit, little pig cooker, little small pig cooker. I like talking to you all because you all know what I'm talking about. I say the same thing like at other schools, and just look at me like, we don't care about it. What's a pig cooker? Inheritance. My mother will leave me her mother's deep black cast iron skillet someday. I will fry okra in it, weigh my whole life on its black handle, lift it up to feel a people in my hand. I will cook dinner for my mother on her rusting bleached stove with this oral star. My mother made her body crooked all her life to afford this wooded blue house. I want her green thumbs wound around a squash's neck to be wound around my wrist, telling me to stay longer. Oh, what she grew with the dust dancing in blue hours. What will happen to her body left in the ground? To the bodies in the street, my uncles turned to ash on the fireplace mantles, the cousins we've misplaced. How many people make up this wound? No one taught my mother how to bring us back to life, so no one taught me. Oh, what we gather, and oh Lord, bless what we pass on. All right, y'all, what we looking? Oh, okay. I'm about to read a few more from here, and then I'll read y'all some new poems, and we'll get on our day. Any other students up there, do you all have an image that you remember from childhood that you can't get out of your head, like that pops up all the time? You want to share it with us? You get extra credit. I don't know if that's true. Yeah, you got an image?
When I was in fourth grade, I remember, I won't say his last name, so it's my uncle, but Scotty was always in and out of class. He was being often yanked, moved to another county, come back. I remember the first day in second grade, coming back in at mid-school year, he had joined the class, and he kicked over a pot of geraniums as we walked back in. And Ms. Parkins, instead of punishing him, punished the entire class back when we used to write sentences. And I just think, wow, what a lonely place that must be, not just to be the new person, but now to have the whole class punished. And then the image that I always think about is in fourth grade, Scotty out in the circle, dirt circle where the school buses were, hiding up behind one of the big tires and refusing to come out, and Ms. Whitley not being able to.
Scotty's breaking my heart right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I'm sure you all have images that you. That's the hardest part about being a poet, I think. It's the vulnerable part. It's saying the thing. I'm sure you all got images you remember. What's your name? Yes.
Shayla.
Shayla, you got an image? What do you remember?
The first image that popped into my head was I was in third grade, and for recess I would often spend a lot of like the special ed kids.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like just because that's where I wanted to be.
Mm.
And all I can picture is one of the special ed kids. He used to be my best friend. All I can picture is his smile.
Mm.
Nothing else. Just how warm his smile and presence was to me at such a young age. That's all I can think about.
Oh, way over there in the corner by yourself. You got an image for us? Okay. I'll come back to you. Oh, we got an image, yeah?
I think of too many things. But I heard her talk about special ed, and one time, in second grade to, I guess second grade to third grade. Technically it was third grade, but most of the time it was second grade. I was also having fun with the special ed kids. I remember the teacher, the special ed teacher, her name was Miss Austin. I think her name changed to Miss Gordon or something. But it was also fun. One time we ate popcorn.
All right, yeah. Why do you think you remember these things? Why do you think you remember that smile?
Because it was familiar, it was warm, it was safe.
Hmm.
It almost reminded me of home, like home away from home kind of thing.
Cool. You should try to get that image down on the page and see what it can become. See what meaning you can make from it. All right, y'all, I'm gonna read one more from this one. I'll read some new poems and we can talk about those maybe. Yeah, that's a lot how my poems work though. This moment of memory. So I think of the memory as like the subconscious part. It just happens. I remember it. I don't know why. But then my job as a poet to try to get that down on the page, but then attempt to figure out why I'm seeing this, right? That moment of meaning making that poet and writers do. All right. Carry me. I followed the shimmer far down a road I still haven't found the ending to. I pick up my life. My mother sewn a map to the back of, so one day I lay it out and travel back to the flat land of eastern North Carolina, a map to land where my body will die, where the ghosts won't ride the trains all night, count steps from liberty to home. I tried to find the ocean before I was covered in southern soil. I put my head underneath the Atlantic, swallowed so many memories. I'm filled with people. Someone has taught me to fly. Whichever way I flew, my inheritance couldn't be lifted from northeastern North Carolina's wet clay, its hands hardened around my already weighted ankles. My mother's mother planted hydrangeas where I wanted to place an ocean. Where I wanted to place an ocean, she grew me. I pick up my life, for it was the only one I had to pick up. How the body must pick itself up if no one is around to offer a rounded hand out of the snow that only buries. Stuck to my life were the same things I carry back with me now. My father's lying I've mastered and wear the way a field wears the bones of birds, the green tint of gin bottles my uncles made of their bare nights. My mother, the only reason I have something to pick up. All right. I won't say who this poet is because they're actually a professor of mine who I love dearly. They're having a book come out. I won't even, that's too much. All right. They're having a book come out, and I've had a title for this book for like a couple of years. I've been working on this book called The Blue Shared Earth. And their book, I don't care, I'll have to tell you. It can't be that title anymore because they're a well-known poet, and their book is called The Shared World. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I think that's just too close. And like people know that's my teacher, and it's too much. But I'm sure their book would be way better than mine anyway. So I'm just gonna read these poems. This is this imagined black town that I'm very much Youngsville. But I remember Youngsville like as a child, and so everything was magic. Okay. Miles of owls answering the night in houses with axes laid against the back porch like lovers. Mile of bone readers telling you why your great aunt won't leave your baby alone. Fire makers, cucumber cutters, rabbit killers. I cheap made Mal so it floods easy. A Mal that's made me cry my eyes empty. I strange smelling Mal when my uncle makes a burn pile. An unbreathable Mal. A ghost took Mal. A whole mile of people depended on the first of the month, so a miracle making Mal. A Mal dying a minute. It could be a lonely road. These are all made up names. Okay, so I was weeks ago, I've been making up all these characters. This book is filled with people, right? It's a town, so it's people. And I was trying to figure out like who are these people I'm making up? And I realized like a character is very much like a ghost, right? And I think this is a town for me to like bring the people who've like passed away in my life as like a town where we can be together. Maybe, but it could be a lonely road. Perry, even though you drank something terrible on the weekends and scared the children with your thunder-filled night voice, you had your guitar and your good night songs that you played from your porch until you began to cry and had to go inside to hide yourself, Perry. You are not alone. Aunt Ribbon, stripped of your home that you bleached every Sunday, and your white house coat and black bonnet, playing North Carolina mass choir like our town's true nun. Your sorry-ass husband following his west-pointing dick and the hog smoke wind. You were taken in by your older sister Aunt Liz and her sugar cakes, and the house you grew up with your daddy's ghost still walking around, fixing the stove when it goes out. You, Aunt Ribbon, are not alone. Once I felt so rotten-toothed alone, until I looked at the lifeline on my hands and followed the kin map to the top of this hill and read the names on the stones, like Miss Harriet, gathering every woman in our town to your pledge wooden table to discuss the no's and thank yous you would give at the Sunday service, the low down and out men. And after those women left your volunteered house, all you had was the moonlight touching your forehead, making you know you were not alone. The branches of pines are not alone because they have the powdered-faced possums and gray squirrels, the deer the color of my mama's hand sheltering under them, and the stars, full of denial, being so far away and untouchable, swear they are alone, until a child at a Friday night cookout for the first time looks up when the floodlights go down. The devil got God and some angels, God got the devil and some angels. My uncle's fishing pole has its string has its hook has its red worms and sad crickets, the crickets at the bottom of the cola bottle he keeps. We know they are not alone. We hear their gathered songs. I was talking in my class the other day about cliche. The line, my uncle's fishing pole has its string has its hook. That is cliche as you can get. But I think I'm getting away with it because its hook has its red worms and sad crickets. All right, that's to say, right, don't be afraid to write the cliche, but you gotta break that expectation, right? So I think I may be breaking it, but, so taking that cliche, that image, and kind of dwelling or telescoping inside of it more, right? Kind of like those Russian nesting dolls, right? Do-si-do. In purple rain boots, Yvelle started what would become our town's song. She put one little foot down, then picked it up again, quickly slamming down the other one. Thunder, someone turned around and called it. Yvelle made thunder 4 times in a row before Joanne started to stop the music, but the storm's rhythm caught something cornered inside, something older than the hill itself. It was made out of a language we had no home for in our mouths. We knew it was saying, I love you. It was known and unknown. It made Joanne clap in the middle of the tiny ancient storm. Then the storms did as storms do in the southeast. It got caught up in the trees, and the trees played the song on a constant loop from their leaves. It was a song the dead knew, Uncle Gig's ghost finally left the no-account chickens alone and added a low ghost hum to our Black Rose song. The song sounded like Serp, sorrow, a Sunday when nobody died. Serp, sorrow, a Sunday when nobody died, the song went on, and people came out of their frog-croaking doors, filled their windows with animal parts from deep in the woods, the comb of a chicken, half of 3 hinds, 2 dried hearts, the jar of a bird. They put the song's sorrowfulness in a bigger bowl. They made the Serp sweeter and the Sunday longer. Serp, sorrow, a Sunday when nobody died for years, the song curled on. It spoke of each person in this train tracked over town. The tomato women heard it rising from the sandy loam they grew their tomatoes in. They never heard the soil speak such words before, were hesitant to put it in the pot, to lift it from the ground, which bounced like a house speaker. When the sorrow got to the oldest people on the hill, they said it reminded them of hungrier times, of their mothers' half-asleep songs, sung to them as navy bean-eating children. The song went on and never stopped, the moon touching too much of the sun. Joanne knew, like mamas sometimes know, what the song was made of and how it got in her baby's legs. A veil was Jimmy's through and through, and all that carrying around Jimmy do with the dead now gave their brown child gifts, and God had a plan for her sweet Evel that made her worry and made her hand move away a bit of sky. I usually end my poems like a door opening, right? That's how I was taught, right? Or like a bell, right? That kind of ringing out, and you can pull that off with like an image, right? Ending your poems in an image. All right, y'all. I only got a few more. We're almost there. All right. So, Mama's poem. Mamas of their mamas' God, mamas of cantaloupe and tomato seeds, timber cutting mamas, mamas who bound sticks with wool and called it a hand, mama said to reach back with. Mama helped cousin Tay, scared of birds all her life, touch the wing of a robin as it flew along the car. Mama's ready to flutter away from here, but mamas stay. Mothball laying mamas, killing every snake in and out of their yards. Mamas of the land that's been flattened out, the Black Valley gone. Mamas who dance under the floodlights of a Friday night like pine needles do when burned by a child with their mama's lighter. Mamas who sung what they could not name, then would pass that song on to you. Mamas talking to dead husbands and nieces all night long, turning over Ancestor Hill looking for them. Mamas who rivered us clean, mamas who would and wouldn't strike their children, mamas who made themselves smooth as pond stones and circled their eyes. All right, I'm gonna end this reading with a party poem, so I'll read this one first. The Matter of Things. I'm telling you the plain truth. You would think a town with this many poor folks peeling potatoes was unhappy, but getting off the sun bus, my mama was waiting there with the other mamas, thick piece of maple at her hip for any Carolina dog between here and where she's covered my room with 1,000 plastic stars. We are citizens of their upstairs laughter and their tears clear as Tupperware carried to 2 jobs cleaning office buildings 4 nights a week. My house, like everyone's, had a table to sit down some troubles. When the emptiness chose us, we dumped out lonely in the river like bad sugar wine, or held it in the wicker basket with the fish who, like us, learned to embrace in their deaths. You would think we all just wanted to kill over in the dirt of our slapboard houses, but we greased our legs and went into our yards and made them hot, pink, purple, and beautiful, a ceremony of canna, then scrubbed our houses like God was coming to get a plate. You would think we didn't have time to plant flowers and flour biscuits, but every thumb here has dough under its nail, and its priests green. We still gather near flames because that's all our grandmothers had. You would think we couldn't kill a thing, but the deer knew to run, so did the squirrels. You would think we made the reddest devil horns when you say the Lord's name out loud. All right, we're in this with a poem. With a poem and a party. Friday night on the hill. The gentle women are not so gentle when you ask them to do your hair last minute. Their fingers waited with the week. It started with a pinch of wine, then the cake arrived. Someone hungry and out of luck scrawled, that God no more in the rust of all the Fords in town. So close to death on a Friday night, we could get downright animal. Lonely as the only thing wounded in the field, surrendering to a piece of plywood made dance floor. I watched spirits entering a one-room boarding house. The youngest of us wanted mostly to be held for a minute by our mamas or an older favorite cousin while they kicked dust to raspberry beret. We touched the coins of light on our bodies from Uncle Duck's disco ball, the chicken thawing on the river-colored counter. Have you ever seen black folks shimmer under floodlights in summer? We are beautiful. You would think we grew out the precious ground. There's a place on the hill we can go. It's hurt me in so many ways, but tonight it loves me. And I'm sure as the moon raises the dead, it will roll and love you like a hill should. Thank you all. All right, do y'all have questions up there? Yes?
Is planter alive or fruit alive?
Yeah, if you want them to be. That's what I love about making poetry. Like you build worlds, you know, and so what you want to happen, you can make happen. You can take things back. I love bringing people who passed away back to life, right? It's completely selfish. I understand that, but I think that's also a part of making art. Yes and yes, yes.
I think that's really cool, like, how you like bring people back to life in your poetry. It kind of reminds me of like the Night at the Museum, like movie.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, you know,
I love both of those movies.
Yeah.
1 and 2, yeah.
Because they're all dead, even though they're like wax, but they're coming back to life and they have like personalities and like stories.
Can I ask you a real vulnerable question?
Sure.
If you could bring someone back to life, who would you bring back? Where will you be?
Probably in the kitchen. She likes to cook a lot.
Nice. Would she be cooking? What would be happening?
She'd probably be yelling at us to get out of the kitchen.
I love that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
me and my cousins, or you know, we just like run around the kitchen and like the house, and she just take her like flip flop and just throw it at us. Because we just we were kids and we just run around and we had accidents.
So we got the seeing part. I love that you brought up the kitchen. What would you smell? What do you think you would be smelling?
We were a whole family that was so good.
Is it ground beef and vegetables? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love that soup too. Ground beef and vegetables, like a peanut butter and jelly with it. Cheese toast would be real good. It's a little hot for soup now, but I could totally eat soup. Yes?
So are most of your poems based on your people you knew or your own life experiences, or is this just the theme of this particular book?
Yeah, I want to say it's definitely all the experiences I've ever had. I don't know what the poems are going to come from. It's like that, the image that just keeps haunting you, right? And I'm like, why? I try to get it down on a page, then I attempt to make meaning of it. But yeah, I don't ever know. And I suggest that it's always, intuition over intention, right? Anytime you sit down and say, this poem's going to be about this, language doesn't work like that, right? Yeah. Great. Yes?
You said that your
I'm sorry. Was that not all?
Yeah, that was sorry.
Oh, no, never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you said that you chose purple as a color that really represented you, so I want to know why purple specifically.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think tone-wise, purple is the tone that I'm reaching for. Tone is a hard thing to talk about, but I like thinking about tone in terms of music. To me, purple, I'm trying to capture the tone of Nina Simone in my poems, and I think purple is the closest color to that. It's mournful, it's also bright, and it's royal, it's also earthy in a way. And that's why that color has helped you capture a particular tone. And so, like, that's the tone. I think, especially in these new poems, like, purple as a tone just makes sense to me. Like, I can't see any other color. What do you think you write? What do you write? Essays. Yeah. What's a color, though, you think that shows up, that you've seen a lot in your life, that shows up, you think?
I would say blue, just for me.
Why?
When I think of blue, I think of the ocean, the sky, and how peaceful it is, calming, but how relaxing it can also be.
Has that duality to it, yeah. I like that. Yes?
You said something about if you could bring someone back to life,
Mm-hmm.
who would you bring? I was thinking about it a little bit. I was thinking about maybe a dog, because a dog
Yeah, I love that.
is a fur lover. But I think I ended up choosing none because kind of it's like more of like a respect kind of feeling for me.
That's something I deal with constantly in my poems. It's that I realize, though I do believe my ancestors are there to help me, but I do know it's solely for me when I'm calling because I need them. And I mean I think that's a big part of it. I'm definitely trying to manage that in the work, but also in the work I'm also saying, I am guilty of calling someone back who maybe, who are calling someone back to a place that's maybe done them wrong, right? It's kind of harmful. Yes?
Also, you're talking about what's the color that represents you.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about a bunch of things. I was just like, oh, I like yellow. Yellow's really happy and nice. And I think it's very poppy color. And sometimes when I was a kid, I wanted pink. And it's like, oh, I want a pink cup. Oh, I want a pink this, that. And now I don't think I use pink that much. And then turquoise is my favorite color. But when I think of turquoise, I think of more of a dark teal than the turquoise rock color.
Thinking about the music you listen to, what could you match a particular artist to that color tone-wise?
Yeah, I don't really listen to that much music.
What? Okay. Well. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all. I'm gonna sit down.
Look, I don't know about you all, but this is a bath I needed today. I feel like I was chest deep into authenticity and music and experience, and I'm just kind of blown away and overwhelmed right now. But I think I'm glad we were able to share this experience. Thank you so much for being here today, and let's all go get some. And make sure we get poetry in our lives every day, all right?
Yes.
I'm in a video.
Yep.
Great day to everybody.
Thank you.